Apple just had their biggest event of the year where they announced 5 brand new products, including the all-new iPhone 13 and 13 Pro. So we'll start off with the new standard iPad, which out of anything they announced was the most incremental, with an upgraded A13 Bionic chip, an improved 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera with center stage, True Tone support on the display, and up to 256 gigabytes of storage. But really, the main selling point for the standard iPad is the same as it was before in the price point, with it starting at just $329. You can order it starting today, with availability coming next week. The next new product that Apple announced is the all-new iPad mini, which unlike the standard iPad is completely redesigned. Apple finally ditched the big bezels and the physical home button, allowing a bigger 8.3-inch screen to squeeze into roughly the same footprint. Now, since that physical home button is gone, the Touch ID sensor is now embedded within the power button at the top. At the bottom, Apple swapped the Lightning port with a faster USB-C port, which thankfully they still include the charger for in the box. What's cool is the new iPad mini supports the Apple Pencil 2, with the new design even allowing you to attach it magnetically to the side of the device. In terms of the cameras, both the front and the rear cameras get some improvements, with the selfie camera getting the same 12 megapixel upgrade as the regular iPad with center stage, while the rear camera gets a new 12 megapixel sensor with an f1.8 aperture along with a True Tone flash. Under the hood, the iPad mini is actually getting the all-new A15 Bionic chip, just like the iPhone 13s are, where the CPU is 40% faster than the last gen mini and the GPU is 80% faster. So this thing is gonna be great for mobile gaming. Color options include space gray, pink, purple, and starlight, with pricing starting at $499. You can order it starting now, with availability coming next week. Moving on, the third product Apple announced is the all-new Apple Watch Series 7. Now, while we didn't get the complete redesign we were hoping for, there are still some pretty significant improvements. The screen area is now 20% larger than on the Series 6 and 50% larger than the Series 3. And this is without the watch itself getting too much bigger. Apple was able to do this by reducing the bezels by 40%, with them now measuring in at just 1.7 millimeters thick. The byproduct of this is you get a subtle wraparound effect on the watch, with Apple even including a special contour watch face to really make it stand out. Now, because the screen is bigger on the Series 7, Apple says it can fit up to 50% more text on the screen, meaning you won't have to scroll as much when doing things like reading messages. WatchOS has also been optimized to take advantage of the extra screen real estate, with bigger buttons throughout the UI, and for the first time on an Apple Watch, the Series 7 will have a QWERTY keyboard, although I do have some serious doubts as to how practical it'll be. In terms of durability, the Series 7 got a pretty big upgrade, with a crack-resistant crystal that's now 50% thicker than before. And the watch is now also IP6X dust resistant, which is on top of the 50-meter water resistance rating. Battery life is quoted to be roughly the same as last year's, but there's now a new charging architecture that allows the Series 7 to charge 33% faster with the help of a new USB-C cable. This allows the watch to go from 0 to 80% in just 45 minutes, which can come in handy if you plan on using the watch for sleep tracking. The Series 7 comes in 3 different materials in titanium, stainless steel, and aluminum, with the aluminum coming in 5 different colors. Pricing starts at $399, and availability for the watch is coming later this fall. Alright, let's talk about the new iPhone 13 and 13 mini. So at first glance, they look a lot like the iPhone 12s, with the biggest visible difference being the new camera systems, in that the cameras now have a diagonal layout. Apple says this new layout helped them fit a bigger sensor that brings in 47% more light than before. This is one of the biggest sensor upgrades we've seen in years, and one that should take low light performance on the iPhone to the next level. On top of that though, the diagonal layout also helped Apple fit in their sensor shift tech that last year was only available on the highest end iPhone 12 Pro Max. This tech literally moves the camera sensors to correct for shaky hands, meaning videos you shoot on the iPhone 13 and the 13 mini should be smoother than ever. In terms of new camera features, there's a new mode called photographic styles, which kind of work like filters do, except for styles are more selective in where all the adjustments are applied, allowing them to preserve things like skin tone. But maybe the more exciting new camera feature is what Apple is calling cinematic mode, where it's basically like having portrait video with the ability to have your subject in focus while blurring everything else in the background. Now, what's cool about it though is it has some smarts to it, so if your subject turns their gaze away, the focus can shift along with it, and it can even anticipate when a subject is about to enter the scene and automatically rack the focus when they do. Now, I don't know how well this will actually work in real life scenarios, but on the plus side, you can always edit the depth effects after the fact if you don't like them. But moving on from the cameras, let's talk about the new displays. So first thing worth mentioning is the notch finally sees a reduction in size, with it now 20% smaller than before, although it is a tad taller. More importantly though, the screen is now 28% brighter at up to 800 nits, meaning it should be much easier to see things on the screen when you're outdoors and in direct sunlight. Under the hood, you have the all-new Apple A15 Bionic chip, which Apple says has a 50% faster CPU than the leading competition. They're probably talking about the Snapdragon 888 and 30% faster graphics. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how it does in our speed test, since sometimes those specs aren't the ones that you appreciate in day-to-day use, but one thing you will appreciate is the bigger batteries, which Apple claims adds 1.5 hours of battery life to the iPhone 13 mini over the 12 mini and 2.5 hours more for the iPhone 13 compared to the iPhone 12. Again, we'll have to wait and see how it performs in our battery test, but if the claims translate, it's a huge leap in battery life. The iPhone 13s come in 5 new colors in pink, blue, midnight, starlight, and product red, and the starting storage has been doubled to 128GB versus 64. Pricing remains the same, with it starting at $699 for the iPhone 13 mini and $799 for the iPhone 13, with pre-orders starting this Friday and availability on September 24th. And finally, the last new products Apple announced are the Pro models in the iPhone 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max. So as always, the Pro models are getting better camera systems this year, with a new 3x telephoto camera, a new ultra-wide camera that offers up to a 92% improvement in low light, and a new main camera bringing the biggest sensor ever to an iPhone with up to a 2.2x improvement in low light. On top of the better low light, the new ultra-wide camera also allows for macro photography, where you can get as close to as 2 centimeters away from something and still have it in focus. On the software side of things, all 3 cameras will now support night mode. There's Smart HDR4, where the contrast, lighting, and skin tones are refined for each individual person in a photo, and Apple is even bringing ProRes to the iPhone later this year, giving you more flexibility when you're editing videos in post. Now, what's interesting about the Pro models is that while on paper it's getting the same A15 Bionic chip as the standard iPhone 13s, it's technically a better version of it with a 5-core GPU instead of a 4-core GPU. Now, why Apple is using a beefier A15 on the Pro models is partly explained by the new display, where yes, the Pro models are finally getting the ProMotion 120Hz refresh rates that we've all been waiting for, meaning doing things like scrolling, switching apps, or playing games is going to feel buttery smooth. Now, one of the drawbacks of higher refresh rate screens is they typically take their toll on battery life. But with iOS taking full advantage of the adaptive nature of these displays, shifting them from 120Hz all the way down to 10Hz depending on what you're doing, or even on the speed of your finger as you scroll, Apple is still somehow claiming longer battery life than last year's models at 1.5 hours more for the iPhone 13 Pro and 2.5 hours longer for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Obviously, part of this is due to just having bigger batteries under the hood, but either way, it's a huge claim, and if it translates, we may just be looking at a new battery champ. The Pro models come in 4 color options, including graphite, gold, silver, and an all-new Sierra blue color, with pricing the same as last year's at $999 for the iPhone 13 Pro and $1099 for the 13 Pro Max. Pre-orders start this Friday, with availability starting on September 24th. We have the unboxings, and we'll be running our battery of tests as soon as the iPhone 13s come in, so be sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on those videos.